Chernobylite was easily going to be one of my favorite games this year. The gameplay loop was addictive as you explored different environments, finding supplies, battling soldiers, and supernatural forces, along with being able to take those supplies back to your base and feed yourself and companions, along with being able to take those supplies back to make your base better. The level up mechanics were good as well, offering you choices in what you learn first. The combat was engaging with short but intense encounters. The atmosphere was thick, and the story provided an interesting mystery and setting. But all of my enjoyment was stopped when many of the stability issues hurt the overall experience. I had situations of my saves getting deleted, losing all of my progress on my base, along with not being able to go back to prior saves as all of my saves would just revert back to the very start of the game. This is ultimately a game that I love playing, and one that I at least did not see anything wrong with related to its mechanics. But the stability side of things, especially with the saves, need to be fixed. My plan is to review what I have played now and then cover it again after it's all been fixed, or maybe after the content roadmap is finished. So for now, let's dig into Chernobylite.
Either Olga comes out or everyone
Chernobylite is a first-person shooter with survival and base building mechanics. When it comes to the shooting, it's pretty solid. Generally, the guns sound good with the right amount of feedback. To add to this is how you can dismember enemies and take off their heads. The combat encounters are not usually these extended sequences, but rather short explosions of violent action. There is this constant layer of tension while you're on missions, and you never really know where the enemies will be patrolling. Enemy soldiers may not be the smartest enemies, but they can take you down with a few shots. The supernatural enemies use different tactics. For example, some are plant-like and act like a turret that can move quickly to another location, along with more melee-focused fighters. Chernobylite is a game that requires the player to think tactically. A wrong move could cause you to use resources that you didn't need to use. There is an interesting element where you are hunted down by a mysterious stalker, and when you enter a level, after a certain period of time, he will show up to try and take you out. He can be really aggressive as he uses portals to get closer to you. All of the encounters I had with him were pretty much the same, and if you are ready for him, you can take him down with just a few shots before he hurts you. Overall, combat is solid, enjoyable, and intense. While there will be plenty of shooting, the real meat of the gameplay comes from the exploration and the survival mechanics. Levels act like these mini open worlds, with side missions to complete along with several supplies to find. The map will let you know where your main objective is along with the optional objectives, so you can have a more direct experience by going just for these. Or you can opt to search each part of the map for supplies. You have a device as well that can help ping items in the environment, allowing you to be more effective on your supply runs. Now, the main missions will see you revisiting many of the same maps again, but showing you new areas within them, and you can always return back to a map to find supplies as well. What prevents this from becoming repetitive is how many of the conditions of the map will change. This is where some of the roguelite randomization comes into play. For example, the environment's radiation spots change, the time of day, the enemy placement along with which enemies you fight, different side missions, and supply locations. There was a lot of effort put into making returning back to these locations not feel like a chore. Now, after you complete missions, you will return back to your base, and you will need to divvy out your food supply to yourself along with your companions. You will want to keep them in good condition since you can send them out on missions and collect stuff for you. Along with this, there are story decisions as well that can change your standing with your companions, and depending on what you choose, they may decide to stay with you or leave. While at the base, you can build up several different structures. You can build crafting stations, options for cooking, healing supplies, decorations, and a lot more. The base building is really enjoyable, and it's all up to the player on where they want to place things, along with what they want to build first. This means you can opt to focusing on making a better arsenal for yourself over making body armor or cooking. I spent about 15 hours just doing side missions, collecting supplies, and slowly bettering my base. This side of the progression is extremely addictive and very rewarding. There is this great sense of personalization and accomplishment that comes from this area of the game, with you bettering your home and things that that can assist you in different ways. The base building also requires you to keep an eye on a few meters that you need to balance. For example, some structures require you to have power, but building power can cause the base to have radiation or bad air quality, so you need to build things that improve the air and protect you from the radiation. There is even a meter related to your comfort level, so you need to consider that as well, because that can affect the morale of your companions. This is a bit of a give and take system that shows how even the base building has some interesting causes and effects. You are rewarded with experience for almost everything you do. Once you level up, you will earn a skill point. Now each of your companions have different skills that they can teach you. Some might improve your health, how much inventory space you have, or improve your damage with a specific weapon. What I liked about this is that when you choose to learn a skill, there is sometimes a little bit of gameplay to it. So to get better with your firearms, the companions will take you to a shooting range. It is a nice touch and I really like this. While I wasn't able to explore this part of the game that much due to my issues that I experienced, but there is an area of the game that when you die, the game sort of resets, and you can change what decisions you made along the way. Meaning if you made a decision that lost you a companion, you can change that here. Over the course of the game, you will find Chernobylite, which is used as a form of currency to let you do these parts. And again, based on the story that I experienced so far, I really liked it. You are essentially trying to build a team for a heist to help find your wife. The first mission does a great job of hooking you in right away, and creating an inviting mystery. There are flashbacks that help to flesh out the story prior to the start of the game, along with echoes that you find in the environment that help to bring some weight to the levels and the world. The game even presents some fun ethical choices like hurting a leader for the greater good. Clues are found in the levels that you can use to piece together the game's mysteries. After you find enough of them, you can run a simulation that reveals more about the story. The story is always present in the game, and both the gameplay and narrative intermingle well together.
Why did you have to come back? Full of surprises, but it's not over yet.
Now before all of my issues, this was easily headed in the direction of being one of my favorite games for this year. Before I get into the big issues, I want to discuss some of the smaller ones. For one, the game autosaves frequently, which is good, but it can do this right when you're in the middle of a firefight, causing the game to pause right when you're trying to shoot someone. This is jarring and distracting from the action. I had a situation where the game thought an enemy was around, but I couldn't find anyone, and since the game thought I was in danger, I couldn't complete any of my objectives. A quick restart fixed this. I had a silly situation of an enemy being stuck in a wall. There was also a situation of me being attacked by an invisible enemy, which also caused me to die and then get stuck when I used my revive injection. Now about 15 hours into the game, I would keep getting this error related to my saves. Essentially whenever this popped up, all of my prior manual and autosaves would be deleted, and I would not be able to save for a few minutes. After this passed, I could save again. Now I could stomach this happening a handful of times, but this happened at least every 30 minutes to me after the 15-hour mark, to the point I almost had no saves at some times. After completing the Memories story mission, I returned back to my base, but my base looked like it did at the start of the game, and all of my progress was gone. I was unsure if this was part of the game because I knew it had a bit of a time loop angle to it. After discussing this with a friend who had beaten the game, this was in fact a bug. But at the time, I moved forward a bit and hit the point where the game forces you to die and then see your timeline. After I completed this section, the game crashed during a save. When I loaded up my game again, it booted me back to the beginning of the game with none of my progress. I tried using some of my older saves, but each one would just bring me back to the start of the game with none of my equipment or learned skills, which I found really odd since the game makes a point to tell you that future deaths could cause you to lose items, with no mention of skills. But after you receive this warning, it's after the map gets blown up at a set plot point. So I knew in my situation something wasn't working right. I happened to have a few saves before the game forced me to die as part of the story, but none of them were working correctly. Now I understand that there are some roguelike elements in this game, but it was apparent at this point that the save system was not stable, and it was then that I decided to stop playing. Now I do think many of these large issues with this game can be fixed. These issues are not related to poorly designed gameplay mechanics, but rather focused on the stability of the game itself. Now I was playing the PS4 version, and it seems that the console versions are not working as well as as the PC version, and with my constant save issue getting worse, I do not have all of the footage that I wanted to show you for some of these parts. As you can see from my video, I was really enjoying the gameplay systems here, along with the narrative. The idea of building up a team for a suicide mission is something that I really liked, and it was like a nice callback to Mass Effect 2, but the game desperately needs to fix its saving system. I played this game for over 20 hours and all of my progress was lost. A broken save system is a huge insult to the player's time, and what is more frustrating is that my friend played the PS4 version and had no major issues, while others on Reddit made note of a lot of crashes on the console versions. So my current plan is to wait to cover this again, after it has received more polish. I was really enjoying the game and loving many aspects about it, and I think the developers can really fix these issues. So for now, I cannot recommend that you play this game, unless you see that the PC version is free of the issues that I experienced. If you are interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. If you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.